Hi, I'm Dave Epstein and welcome to this edition of Growing Wisdom. Today we're in the garden talking about composting. So I'm going to start with the end of the video in a way. So here's some beautiful compost that came out of these bins. You can see how really nice this is, and I can use this around my tomato plants, lettuce, right in the garden directly. It's wonderful stuff. It's highly organic, obviously, and plants absolutely love it, but you got to make it. You can, of course, buy it, but I like to make my own compost. So let's talk about what I've got going on. Now, there's all sorts of different ways to do this. This is using compost bins, which I already have, which I purchased, but I'll give you a couple of other flavors for also how you can compost. So these are composting bins. This one actually came from my town, and this one was given to me by a friend who didn't want to use it. They were moving into the city, so they had no place for it. When you're making composting, you're adding in greens and browns. The greens would be things like the live leaf clippings or grass clippings, anything like that. So browns would also be things like dead leaves or even newspaper, things that are dead. So this would be part of the browns. By mixing the browns and the greens together, keeping it aerated, basically turning it, eventually it does turn to compost. A couple of tools that will help you with composting. I got these at Johnny Selected Seeds up there in Maine. This is a composting thermometer. You could also use this to check the temperature of the soil as well, because it goes all the way down to 0. And you want to have temperature of your compost up, above 80 degrees, really get it going. You want it 120, even 140. So this is the thermometer which will test the temperature of the compost. Now, this particular pile's not very active right now. It's been sitting all winter. I didn't get out here to turn it, so temperature isn't going to be very warm. So speaking of turning, this is a compost turner, and what this does is it enables you to shove this down into your compost pile and lift it out and turn it. So what we can do here is we can put this turner in and lift it out, and what this does is it lets me really mix up and aerate the compost. And I also use kitchen scraps. So when I'm making my compost, here's some eggshells, there's some melon rind, here's a tea bag. So that all can go in there. So another thing you can put in your compost pile are coffee grounds. So I went to my local barista and they gave me these coffee grounds. Just sprinkle those in there. Smells good. So what you can do is you can take some soil from the ground around, we're in the wooded area, and that adds some of the natural bacteria and fungus, which will also help break this down a little bit. Okay, so one of the things you can do if you want to speed the process up is, notice how we put those layers of brown and green. You can actually add a bioaccelerator, and all sorts of places make them. You can get it online, you can buy it at your local garden center. It's just a thin layer of basically bacteria and other materials which are going to help break down or start your compost pile. Now, this particular compost pile is going pretty good underneath, so as I turn it up, it's going to really help. And then you want to wet it. You don't want it soaked, but you definitely want some water going through there. Remember, this was pretty dry, so I'm okay putting a little bit of wetness into this pile. Now, we're in generally a shady area. If you can get yourself into a sunny area, it's going to speed it up because the heat of the sun's going to help as well. That's one of the reasons why these piles take a while to break down. I'll show you the other one. So here's our other pile, and the more aeration you can give these piles, the better off. So we're bringing up some of that partially composted soil from underneath. So these are containers which are specifically made for composting. You could build a wire framed container. You could just have piles if you wanted in one area of leaves and grass clippings and eventually mix those together. These require that you mix some browns, some greens, perhaps a little bit of a compost starter. You can also add your kitchen scraps, and then, as we showed you at the beginning, you get your great pile of compost right out the bottom of these. For Growing Wisdom, I'm Dave Epstein.